Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we bring you breaking news from the South China Sea, where tensions have risen dramatically. 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships attempted to box in a United States Navy carrier, and that decision quickly turned into a very big mistake. Early this morning, defense networks reported the USS Ronald Reagan strike group moving through contested waters near the Spratly Islands. At first everything appeared calm, but as the fleet continued, 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships began approaching from multiple directions, forming a box-like pattern around the carrier. The move was deliberate and aggressive. The Chinese vessels carried heavy deck guns and electronic jamming systems, but the U.S. carrier maintained a steady formation surrounded by its destroyers and supply ships, calm and in complete control. Radio transmissions between the two sides grew tense. According to sources, the Chinese ships demanded the carrier leave what they called Chinese sovereign waters, while the U.S. Navy responded firmly that the vessel was operating in international waters under freedom of navigation rights as recognized by international law. Commercial ship observers reported that at one point the Chinese vessels came dangerously close to the U.S. destroyer USS Higgins, less than 500 yards from the side. In response, the Higgins repositioned and activated electronic countermeasures, creating false radar signals, causing confusion in the Chinese formation. The mistake became clear as the Chinese ships boxed themselves into a dangerous position with no easy exit, while the U.S. carrier group retained open maneuvering space. One wrong turn could have caused a collision or worse. U.S. Navy pilots had already taken off from the carrier deck, maintaining air coverage. F-18 Super Hornets circled overhead, tracking the Chinese vessels without crossing engagement thresholds. It was a controlled warning demonstrating readiness. For 20 minutes tension spiked. Communications were minimal. Both navies knew that a single miscalculation could spark a regional crisis, but the discipline and precision of the U.S. fleet prevented escalation. The carrier strike group subtly shifted its defensive perimeter, expanding the outer ring of destroyers, creating a safe buffer while allowing the carrier freedom of maneuver. This tactic effectively discouraged further Chinese aggression. Pentagon officials confirmed that the U.S. response was deliberate, measured and consistent with international law. They emphasized that freedom of navigation operations are legal, essential, and will continue regardless of external pressure. The Chinese ships eventually began to retreat, signaling that the U.S. Navy's positioning and readiness were successful in deterring any immediate threat. The incident underscores the importance of strategic discipline and operational preparedness in contested waters. Analysts highlight that the professionalism of the U.S. Navy prevented escalation while sending a clear message about commitment to international norms. The South China Sea remains a critical global trade corridor, and such maneuvers have worldwide implications. Following the encounter, all participating U.S. vessels conducted assessments and debriefings, reviewing operational effectiveness and communications protocols. Lessons learned will inform future strategy and training exercises. The incident also demonstrated the importance of intelligence gathering and real-time monitoring, both for naval commanders and policymakers in Washington, ensuring situational awareness in rapidly developing situations. Despite the aggressive posturing, the situation remained under control, with no injuries or damages reported by either side, demonstrating the effectiveness of strategic deterrence and disciplined engagement. International observers noted that the encounter could influence diplomatic negotiations and military planning across the region. Other nations are closely watching how freedom of navigation is enforced and how potential confrontations are managed. The U.S. Navy's measured approach reinforces that strength paired with professionalism can maintain peace while asserting lawful rights. The carrier strike group resumed scheduled operations, conducting training exercises while maintaining heightened readiness. Experts suggest that the display of U.S. capability reassured allies in the region and served as a deterrent for future aggressive maneuvers. The encounter highlights the balance between operational readiness and avoiding unnecessary provocation. Communication protocols including radio hails, visual signals and radar tracking were strictly followed by both sides, minimizing the risk of accidental engagement. The retreat of the Chinese Coast Guard ships indicates that deterrence can be achieved without direct confrontation. The South China Sea will continue to be a hotspot for freedom of navigation operations, and the U.S. Navy's presence ensures that international maritime laws are upheld, protecting commercial and military navigation. Strategic analysts emphasize that disciplined execution combined with clear rules of engagement prevents incidents from escalating and reinforces operational confidence across naval forces. The Carrier Strike Group's actions demonstrate the value of coordination between air assets and surface vessels and the ability to respond quickly and decisively to complex maritime challenges. Lessons learned from this incident will be incorporated into training and operational planning, ensuring that future encounters are managed with the same effectiveness and restraint. The measured response avoided confrontation while asserting U.S. presence, demonstrating that strategic patience combined with operational readiness is key to crisis management. Following the disengagement, the Carrier Strike Group continued operations with full readiness, signaling a commitment to international maritime security and lawful navigation in contested waters. Defense analysts note that incidents like this serve as case studies in operational planning, crisis management, and strategic deterrence, providing insights for both military and diplomatic communities. The professional conduct of the U.S. Navy set a clear precedent for managing high-tension situations, ensuring that freedom of navigation is maintained without resorting to conflict. Naval experts agree that the encounter reflects the importance of rules of engagement, intelligence monitoring, and coordinated maneuvering in complex maritime environments. The retreat of the Chinese Coast Guard ships demonstrates acknowledgement of U.S. operational capability and serves as a reminder that measured deterrence can be highly effective. International law remains a cornerstone of maritime operations, and the U.S. Navy's actions reinforce the principle that lawful operations will continue unimpeded. The Carrier Strike Group's discipline, readiness, and strategic decision-making prevented escalation while maintaining freedom of maneuver throughout the incident. All participating ships conducted post-incident reviews, reinforcing procedures and readiness for any future encounters in contested waters. The South China Sea remains a strategically sensitive region, and such incidents underscore the importance of professional conduct, operational discipline, and adherence to international norms. This encounter will likely be referenced in naval strategy and training for lessons in crisis management, strategic deterrence, and operational effectiveness. Observers highlight that the combination of professional training, real-time monitoring, and clear communication channels is critical to preventing conflicts in disputed waters. The U.S. Navy's measured response provides a template for managing encounters that could potentially escalate into international incidents while maintaining lawful rights. All lessons learned from this incident will shape future training exercises, tactical planning, and diplomatic engagement, ensuring long-term stability. Freedom of navigation is non-negotiable, and the U.S. Navy has demonstrated that disciplined engagement and strategic presence can uphold international law. The South China Sea encounter reaffirms the principle that professional conduct, operational readiness, and strategic deterrence are vital for global maritime security. The Carrier Strike Group successfully maintained operational control, demonstrating decisiveness, professionalism, and strategic patience throughout the incident. International observers note that the retreat of the Chinese Coast Guard ships signals acknowledgement of U.S. capabilities without direct conflict. The incident underscores the importance of continuous vigilance, disciplined engagement, and strict adherence to international maritime law. The U.S. Navy's measured response prevented escalation while asserting rights, reinforcing global expectations for lawful conduct. All ships resumed standard operations with heightened awareness and readiness, continuing training and patrolling duties in the South China Sea. Analysts emphasize that such incidents are crucial for understanding how freedom of navigation operations are conducted and how potential confrontations are mitigated. The professional execution by the U.S. Navy sets an example for future engagements, demonstrating that readiness and restraint can coexist effectively. Lessons learned from this encounter will influence policy planning, operational guidelines, and training, ensuring safe navigation in contested maritime zones. The Carrier Strike Group's handling of the situation highlights the importance of strategy coordination and professionalism in preventing crises. The South China Sea will continue to be a strategic focal point with ongoing monitoring and patrols ensuring commercial and military navigation remain uninterrupted. The retreat of the Chinese vessels demonstrates that deterrence can be achieved through presence, strategic positioning and disciplined execution. Freedom of navigation operations remain essential for international trade security and the maintenance of lawful maritime conduct. The measured approach avoided confrontation, asserted lawful rights and maintained stability, sending a clear message to all regional actors. The incident reinforces the value of intelligence gathering, real-time monitoring and rapid tactical response in high-tension situations. The South China Sea encounter highlights that operational readiness and strategic patience are key elements in crisis management. The Carrier Strike Group maintained safety and operational control, ensuring that the situation did not escalate. Professional conduct, adherence to rules of engagement and coordination between naval assets prevented conflict and preserved international norms. Lessons from the encounter will guide future operations, providing insights into deterrence strategies, crisis management and maritime law enforcement. The U.S. Navy's actions demonstrate that measured professional engagement can resolve high-stakes incidents safely, effectively and without escalation.